Whiskers and Panels. Yuta had a cat named Senpai. Senpai wasn't just old, he was ancient. His whiskers were frayed, and his fur smelled like dust and warm sunshine. When Senpai slept, Yuta knew he was busy, because every time he dozed off near Yuta's overflowing manga shelf, the books would vibrate. Yuta loved manga, but he never understood why Senpai always insisted on sleeping specifically next to the unfinished series, The Chrono Scroll. One afternoon, Senpai fell asleep mid-yawn. The books didn't just vibrate. A sliver of light, a perfect comic panel border, opened right above the cat's ear. Curiosity, that dangerous teenage thing, won out over caution. Yuta reached out, touching the light. It didn't feel like air or paper. It felt like warm ink. He didn't pull back. Instead, Yuta took a deep breath and stepped right through the panel border, leaving his normal world behind. The panel world was black and white, sharp lines and stark shadows, overlaid with bursts of color whenever something exciting happened. Senpai, now wide awake, sat regally on a floating caption box. "Welcome, Yuta," the cat yawned. "This is where the unfinished stories live." Their first stop was a derelict scrapyard, drawn entirely in crosshatching. Here, a large, clunky robot sat staring at a broken transmission antenna. This was Servo. He was designed to guard the central plot point, but the plot point was never finished. "I am lonely," Servo explained, his voice a series of echoing static bursts. "I have infinite energy, but no one to protect, no instruction manual for joy." Yuta looked at Senpai, who merely twitched an ear. "Sometimes, a character just needs a new directive," the boy murmured. Yuta didn't try to fix the plot. Instead, he gave Servo a new mission, guarding the smallest, most perfect daisy growing out of a crack in the concrete. "Protect that, Servo," Yuta commanded. "It's vital to the background details." Servo's eyes glowed brighter than before. He had purpose. The scrapyard panels, which had been dull, gained a few happy, soft shading effects. Senpai purred, signaling it was time to move on. That was the first story, solved. The next world was electric pink and sparkly, the domain of the magical girl genre. They found Hoshi, whose outfit was perfect, but whose wand seemed perpetually sticky. She was supposed to fight the forces of darkness, but she mostly tripped over her transformations. "I want to be brave, Yuta, but I keep knocking over the scenery," Hoshi wailed, tears welling up, which instantly turned into sparkling diamonds. "The artist gave me too much kinetic energy and not enough grace." Yuta realized Hoshi didn't need grace. She needed an objective that used her excess power. "Don't fight the darkness, Hoshi," Yuta suggested. "Use that force to clean up the darkness. Turn the destructive energy into constructive chaos." Hoshi grinned, a huge, confident anime smile. She pointed her wand at a looming shadow monster, and instead of exploding it, she used her power to reorganize it into a perfectly stacked pile of very neat, but very intimidated, shadow bricks. Story number 2 complete. The final world was a moody, gothic canyon, the backdrop for the epic villain arc. There, they met Drax, a giant monster with horns that scraped the top of the panel, and a deep voice that shook the gutters between the frames. "I am tired of being the final boss," Drax sighed, causing loose rocks to fall. "My motivation is thin, my backstory is confusing, and frankly, my roar box is perpetually jammed. I just want a nice pension and a quiet life." Yuta knew he couldn't just write Drax out of the story. He needed a role change. "Drax, you don't need to retire. You need a side hustle. Be the one who challenges heroes to a game of Go, or maybe just teach them proper villain staging." Drax agreed to become the canyon mentor, occasionally offering dramatic lighting tips to passing protagonists. As he accepted his new role, the canyon setting, previously too dark to see anything, lightened into a majestic, respectable grayscale. That was the third story. On the way back to the portal, the world flickered. The lines defining Servo's daisy wavered. Hoshi's sparkles dimmed. Yuta felt a sudden, sharp coldness. He looked at Senpai, who had slowed, his movements jerky. "Senpai, what's happening?" Yuta asked, his voice shaking. The old cat looked up, his usually vibrant green anime eyes now slightly muted. "The panel world, it is tied to the strength of the creator's attention, Yuta, and my time is running short." Yuta understood. Senpai wasn't just entering manga when he slept. He was fueling these worlds with his 9 lives, holding them together just long enough for Yuta to step inside. The cat had given Yuta a world to save when he couldn't save his own friend. Senpai rested his chin on Yuta's hand, his body growing cold. As the last lines of the panel world finally disappeared from the air, the cat whispered, faint as pencil dust, "Thank you for giving me 9 stories, Yuta. They were all masterpieces."